Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Blaster Master Zero. In the last part, water level. This time, ice. Looks like we made it to the glacier area. How's Fred's signal, Eve? All good. I can still pick it up. Great. How about all those mutants? Any changes since last time? It looks like some of them are still there, but most of them went elsewhere. I just can't get a read on these guys. What could they be up to? Jason, I know you want to find out, but we gotta focus on looking for Fred. Ah, yeah, that's true. Sorry, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry, too. I spoke too strongly. The ground looks like it's going to be frozen going forward, so please tread extra carefully. It's an ice world. Take a guess what the main gimmick is. If you guess that you can now slip on icy platforms, you are completely right because you have played a video game before. With that said, there is an extra little thing to this area that they do that's a little bit more unique than I've seen some other things do. Some other games do, rather. Even if ultimately it is just a very minor thing. There are going to be some actual pools of water here, but we need to get these frozen in order to actively jump on them. Thankfully, with every single case, there's usually a very short walk to a little switch like this that will freeze the water. Now, in the Sophia sections, this has the effect of just allowing you to progress forward, because sometimes they'll just freeze water like this to use as a platform, or it'll just create outright ice blocks, which are the destructible block for this region. When you're in the top-down sections, though, the ice works a bit differently. You still slip and slide all over the place, but as we'll see in this area, it has a secondary gimmick where you can now destroy it with the flamethrower weapon on the blaster rifle, similarly to the blue rocks back in World 4. We also have these weird spinning blade enemies that remind me a lot of enemies from the Mega Man series, particularly those ones that are... They're the invincible ones that are invincible to most weapons, at least, that just kind of zoom back and forth but get faster when you're on the same floor. I want to say they're called blades of some sort, depending on the game. They only move around on the ice blocks, though, so if you're actively using the flamethrower and destroying the ice, you don't have to worry about them for nearly as long as they would be a theoretical threat for. The most interesting enemy in this area is these weird cross-shaped things. When you get too close to them, they emit a giant star of ice. And that hurts. Obviously, it only does 1 damage, because everything only does 1 damage in this game, on the base difficulty at least. But it is notably hard to dodge, because it's just such a large attack. And it also is odd, and that's one of the few enemy attacks that can destroy destructible blocks. Which means it could actually help you in some cases, depending on where it's placed, but you just need to make sure you're not being stupid about getting hit. Area 6, in the original game, was easily the most dangerous area in my eyes, because Area 7 wasn't too bad, you could skip around it. Area 8 had some annoyances, but it wasn't nearly as bad. And I think what makes it that bad in the original game, the ice physics were annoying, and the lower health was also annoying, but it was also just generally a whole enemy spam issue, if I'm recalling correctly, partnered with the slippery controls. I want to say this might be the largest area in the game overall, even though, honestly, comparing size in these areas are kind of hard to do just because the mobility upgrades you get throughout the game make the larger areas feel more needed. I will say this is probably the most annoying area to backtrack out of, though, if you have to come back in here, because from start to finish, it is long. If you're wondering why I got hit by that, I wasn't actually looking at the screen. This is the only case where they actively make you freeze blocks like this and then go ascend up above them. And honestly, it's probably the most interesting use of this gimmick in this area just because it's something different. Because for the most part, the freezing gimmick here is very almost afterthought-y in a way. Because you just do it like 3 or 4 times and it just freezes some lakes for you to use as platforms. That's about it. This is the only time where you outright freeze unique platforms, and it's really cool due to that. Now, to continue the trend I've been doing for the past couple of videos at this point, let's go over one of the DLC characters. Let's go over Shantae this time from the Shantae series. Shantae and Shovel Knight are unique characters in that if you played their games though, you realize they don't have projectile weapons. Shantae uses her hair to whip things, as well as her transformation dances for attack and mobility. Most of them are just from the games, but most of their aesthetics are based off of Half Genie Hero because that was in development at the time. In side-scrolling mode, Shantae is immune to fall damage and death as usual, and she can still use the Call Sophia button to call the tank to her should she need it. Her Hair Whip signature attack replaces the gun just overall. It's a very short-range attack, but it can reach over and through walls to hit most enemies. It's also extraordinarily easy to rapid-fire. Notable, it also allows her to break, I think, certain blocks, but I forget if that's just something that you need to get the power-ups for. And that's actually something I've forgotten to talk about with all the DLC characters thus far. You still have to get all of the Jason weapons to get 100%. It's just that they're completely grayed out and can't be used. So at that point, they're literally just plot MacGuffins to get 100%. To replace her sub-weapons and, well, yeah, just her sub-weapons and gun meter, she now has a magic meter right out of the game, Shantae series. And unlike Gunvolt, Ekuro, and Shovel Knight, I think, all of her magic abilities are available from the start of the game. She has her Fireball attack, which shoots a fire forward from the direction she's facing until it hits a wall or enemy. Similarly to our Flamethrower weapon, it does do lingering burn damage. It can also melt the ice and spike tiles here in Area 6, as well as the blocks over in Area 4. She has her Storm Puff from the game, which summons an angry-looking cloud for about 5 seconds, which continuously shocks enemies in a cross formation around you. You can whip it in any direction you desire to change its position. It's sort of like an active turret sub-weapon from Jason here, but you can just move wherever you want, only it doesn't draw enemy fire. There's also the Scimitar sub-weapon, which orbit around Shantae in a bit of a circle around her, which damages enemies a little bit when they get hit by it. It's also a continuous drain compared to some of the other sub-weapons, so you need to be a bit careful with your magic there. However, let's talk about her more interesting thing, her transformation dances right from the Shantae series. By holding the X button, you activate her dance rotation, in which case an icon will appear above her head, and you can just choose whichever one you want to turn into. The only exception to that, I think, is the monkey transformation, where there is no icon. It's just kind of the default dance. Notable, before I get into the monkey transformation, we're actually about to reach the boss, so let's talk about that really quick. This boss is sort of like the Boo Beam trap from Wily 3 and Mega Man 2. I think it was Wily 3. It's a giant sphere that's going to teleport all over the wall and try to blast you with, I'm assuming, to be missiles. It hits you with several in a row, and you just have to run away and hopefully you don't get hit by the explosion. After which, it kind of opens itself up and goes, whoa, I missed, oh god. At which point, it does it all again. Past a certain point in its HP, it will also freeze the floor, at which point it also extends how many it tries to fire at you. But if you're quick on your draw, you can take this thing out really quickly. And for beating this fight, we get a very, very, very useful item. This is Jason's final top-down sub-weapon, the Remote Blast. Activate Sophia via remote to unleash a superpowered lock-on shot at a target. Essentially, you freeze time for about 15 seconds, and you get a lock-on screen to shoot 15 individual lock-on targets on the screen. When you either hit all 15 or time runs out, they all get activated and you do a lot of damage to anything you hit. You can either use them all on one target to deal massive damage to boss fights, or spread it out and you have multiple enemies on screen. It's super powerful, you're damn right I'm using that on a lot of boss fights from here on. Alright, back to Shantae. Starting off, there's her monkey dance, which is the only dance you can use here in side-scrolling mode with the Sophia. It's also the only one you can't use in top-down. It doubles her jump height, allows her to crawl up and down walls with the D-pad, as well as jump off said walls, similarly to what Gunvolt can do. However, you cannot attack or hold on to ladders, and it can't be used underwater. In fact, if you fall into water, you immediately turn back into Shantae, just like in the games itself. Next up, there's the Mutant Dance, which turns you into that little enemy that the little round enemy from World 1 that is found in a lot of the little dungeons. You turn into a little purple one of them, and you fire pellets into whatever direction you're facing just by pressing the Y button. They act similarly to the penetrator rounds that Jason fires, the little machine gun that slowly spreads out the more you hold the button. Only I think it's a lot slower, and you can have more shots on screen. Next up is the Elephant Dance, which allows you to charge forward about half the screen or so, which damages a lot of enemies, and will also break down any cracked walls you run into. The final ability for Shantae is the Brainy Dance, but she doesn't have from the start. You get it from Squid Bear in Area 5. If you head just east of the entrance to Area 5, more or less towards where the life up was, even though you can't reach it because you have to go through the actual final dungeon to get to that, you can find him there and you get it. And it allows you to turn into Mother Brain, the first boss, with a very big sprite and everything. It allows you to float over pits and pools while you move, and while you hold Y, it makes you stand still, but it blooms the brain like in the boss fight, and you just shoot out a huge stream of projectiles in the direction you're facing, with about the same spread as the auto fire round from Jason's weapon, but with no maximum travel distance. It goes everywhere. You can slowly kind of steer it by pressing the D-pad, but it's overall nothing too big. Although a notable thing is that because of that power-up, or because of the Shantae mode, in Half Genie Hero, in the final update to the Kickstarter, Shantae was given a Sophia 3 dance to turn into the tank. Also, for beating this dungeon, we get the Cannon Shot. Out of all of the extra charge shots beyond the first one, this is the one I'm always the most tempted to use, because it's a giant projectile that when you charge up the cannon, you get a reticle on screen that shows you roughly where it's going to land. However, like with the other charge shots, you do need 1 SP to use it. When you fire it, you shoot out a giant cannon shell that explodes on impact, and destroys more or less anything in its path, including these pink spikes that we've seen throughout this area. This is a very powerful ability. You just don't get much of a chance to use it because there's just going to be other better things to use moving forward all the same. It's still powerful, and it's also useful for getting back to the main area here because it allows you to just completely shortcut through this little bed of spikes here. I think on my first playthrough of the game, this was the area I had to come back to the most because I think I missed 2 things here my first playthrough. One, I missed the area where we got the remote blast sub-weapon. And I also missed the path to the power. Oh my god, Fred! Is that Fred? Poor guy's pretty injured, but he's still alive. Thank goodness. What's this? Looks like machine parts. What are these doing here? Jason, can I have a look at him? Yep, he's fine. Sophia's equipped with everything we need to treat him. Seriously? That's awesome! I can't believe we finally found him. What's going on? Hang on a second. Looks like something happened at a facility in there. I guess I'll have to check it out. I'll leave Fred's treatment to you. Alright, so I guess something's happening deeper in Area 6. But yeah, the one thing I definitely missed here on my first playthrough was the health pickup. Because it's one of those things where when you see the path to get to it, you're like, oh, how could I have missed that? But if you're not paying attention, it's very easy to miss. In fact, it's on screen right now. If you look on the floor beneath me right now, you can see there's this thing over here looks a little bit different. It's because it's a doorway. Looking back, I don't know how I missed that, but if you're not paying attention, it's very easy to miss, apparently. This leads us on a pathway to get the health up for this area. It almost feels like at times they want you to have the final power-up you get in this area from the main dungeon to get through this, but I think you just need the cannon blast. In fact, I think it's required because to get past these spikes, you obviously need the ability to blow them up. The reason I say I think they want you to have it is if you don't have the cannon blast, you're obviously not getting past those spikes, but you're also just not going to be able to progress down here. The ability we're going to get from the next dungeon will allow us to get down there anyway, but you need the cannon blast to get the life up all the same. Oh, also, if you're wondering why I'm jump cutting a bit more this part than I have in the previous LP in terms of the side-scrolling segment, in pure recording, this is easily the longest part of the LP. just because after we finish our business here in Area 6, we have a hearty backtrack awaiting us. And I wanted to make sure I could get this to at least or just about 25 minutes, just for the sake of having a good timer. One of the hardest things to learn to do well in an LP, I feel, is figuring out how long you're comfortable with parts being. And I know I've talked about this before, like I like my RPG parts to be around a half hour. Platformers and otherwise usually between 15 and 20. With games like this, when you just record the main area and then that's just the part, it's a bit harder to judge your time with that because you're just going to be doing what you can do. Did that just happen? Ah, good to see that hitboxes are still my friend. Ah! The worst part is, I have distinct memories of that happening on my first playthrough as well. The collision with that corner is weird, but I'm just glad it doesn't kill you. With that, now it's time for the main dungeon of this area. And I don't have the flamethrower power-up, so I actually have to take a bit of a longer roundabout route with getting around this, because if I could, I would just blaze through it. That's the thing I do like about Area 6 and its top-down sections, though. They can more or less be longer or shorter depending on your playstyle. If you like to use the flamethrower, you can get through it really quickly. If you don't, it'll take a bit longer, but you're still going to be there and you're going to have to face a lot more enemies. It's a nice little think outside the box, and then you can do a bit better. Something that I'm always a bit nervous, though, with when I'm using the flamethrower, and you saw it a bit right there, is that due to how the flamethrower comes out, I'm always just a little bit nervous I'm going to still get hit by one of the spikes just because of my slowed down walking speed, countered with maybe the fire not being at the right place at the right time. It happens, but you can't really do anything about it if it does. And now it's time for the boss fight of Area 6. Let's get out the remote blast so I can show this off, because it's a perfect opportunity to. That is a lot of orbs. This is supposed to be the control facility for the glacier area, but it looks like there's nothing here. Watch out, Jason! I'm detecting a mutant in that room. I think this entire room's a mutant. Looks like there's a lot of them, but they ain't gonna stop me. Alright, the boss of this area is the forbidden weapon, Ancient Freeze. Every single one of these orbs opens up as a target. The red ones shoot out a laser, I believe, and have a bit more HP. I'm actually not sure, or remember at least, what the blue ones do. I think they just fire projectiles at you. And you just need to shoot them, and hopefully you take them out before they can get too much damage in. They do freeze the floor every now and then, when they get lower in HP, and if you've destroyed some of the floor, they'll refreeze the floor, but add in some of the spikes. Additionally, some of the little blade enemies will spawn, so you need to be a bit careful about your placement and make sure you melt a bit of the floor. Because of its immobility, it's not a hard boss, but if you let too many of them live for too long, the amount you have to dodge can be troublesome. Also, the red ones only actively attack when you get into the little laser sights, so if you just stand off to the side, they can't exactly do much against you. Come on, open up. Yeah, there's their attack. It's just, it's basically the Gemini laser, now that I think about it. And that's the Area 6 boss. If you have remote blast, it's very easy. Mind you, could say that for a lot of the boss fights going forward, really. And for beating it, we get the wall climb. Climb on cliffs and walls. Move towards a cliff or a wall while holding the wall button to begin climbing. Great job, Jason. Are you alright? You're not injured, are you? Nope, no injuries. All good here. Whew, thank goodness. I have something I want to talk to you about when you get back. Got it. I'm heading back now. Thanks. I'll be waiting for you. So, you had something you wanted to talk to me about? Before I do that, Fred, go over and sit with Jason. Fred was sitting in the palm of her hand, and he seemed to understand our language because he hopped on over to me and sat by my feet. All his injuries look like they have been healed thanks to Eve's medical treatment. Our drone here, also known as Fred, had but one purpose when it came to this planet. To blend in naturally with the creatures that lived on this planet in search for the whereabouts of mutants. Eve? What are you saying? Then the mutants began to consume all the planet's natural resources and life forms, and the planet fell into a state of ruin. The mutants once invaded my home planet too. Thanks to the help of some extraordinary people, we were able to hold on to our home, but the destruction was massive. That's when we developed something that could oppose the mutants that were scattered throughout space and rescue people on other planets at the same time. That would be none other than the Sophia 3 here. There was also a project that set out to create a support bot that could perform maintenance and adjustments on Sophia. As for that support bot, well, that's actually an android. Model number Nora 2057 Eve. In other words, that's me. Whoa, hold on just a moment. What are you saying that you got your memory back? Yeah, sorry I didn't say anything about it until now. No worries, Eve, but is everything that you just told me really true? Yeah, honestly, I'm not supposed to be telling you this. Excessive interaction with the planet's native life forms is forbidden. But since you saved me, I felt that you had the right to know. No, that's not it. I really just wanted to tell you everything. Eve. Thank you for fighting alongside me all this time, Jason. This is where we part ways. I have to continue this on my own. What do you mean? It's exactly as I said. You found Fred, so that means you accomplished what you came here to do. That's why there's no need for you to keep putting yourself in danger fighting against these mutants. Leave the rest of this to me. I want you to return to the surface. No way. But Jason, why? There's still a lot I don't get, but if these mutants are aiming to destroy the Earth, then I can't just walk away now. You don't have to worry, Can one really do this all alone? Where's the guarantee in that? If you fail, do you have some other way to stop the mutants? Well, even if you don't think you're gonna fail, you should always eliminate any risks you can, right? You know what needs to be done in order to make that happen. Eve, I want to be there for you. Just like you're there for me. It's my turn to support you, Eve. I held out my hand towards her. Jason, will you give me your support? Eve's hand joined together with mine. I held it as tightly as I could. Yeah, leave it to me. Alrighty, that was plot dump. And now we got Fred on the menu. It's adorable. I checked over the intel we got from Fred, and I managed to find the location where all these mutants are originating from. It's a place even deeper into the Earth. How are we gonna get there? Looks like there's an old transport tunnel in the industrial area that they used for mining purposes a long time ago. Right on. Thanks for looking into this. Now that we have the wall ability, there could definitely be an area that we previously couldn't get to without it. And speaking of that wall ability, it's now our current upgrade. If you hold L2 or R2, you can just climb up walls. You do need to start holding the direction that you want to go in at that point. So for instance, if I'm holding up while going up a wall, I need to start holding left to head left, and then down to go down, so on and so forth. And you can't jump from wall to wall. You just need to jump off and then go up another wall from there. But it does give us a lot more mobility options and even some different ways to solve some platforming puzzles from here on out. With that said, our business in Area 6 is completely concluded. We just need to get out of here now. And I believe we're going to be back in the room with the second freezer terminal. So from here, I'm just going to start jump cutting. We need to head all the way back to the industrial area, which for those who remember is Area 3. In order to do that, we need to head through Area 6. Get back to Area 5. Navigate our way through a couple rooms we actually haven't been through in here yet, which is why I'm having jump cut from here. And then head through Area 4, back into Area 1, and then Area 2, and back into Area 3. It's the biggest backtrack in the game, but at the same time, it doesn't take too long. Like, I think it takes less than 6 minutes. But I'm still going to be jump cutting around because you don't need to watch all that again. Barring this little section here, none of what we've gone through before is new stuff. It's just the old stuff again and again. So from here, I'm about to jump cut to the entrance to Area 6, then all the way back to Area 3. Or rather, the Area 2 entrance to Area 3. Now, from here, we need to head about 3 or 4 rooms deep. More or less to the point where we headed down earlier when there was a branch path west that we couldn't earlier. It's this room, basically. If we head through that branch west, we can see there is a conveyor belt on the wall we couldn't do anything with before. But now that we have the wall climb, we can do just that. And from here, the door to Area 7 is right next to us. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in Part 7, Area 7. See you guys then.